What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 90s First Show, where we talk about 90s media and the things that we love. Join Joe, Justin, and myself, Mike, as well as the occasional special guest, as we talk about the movies and shows that we love the most. If you would like to support us, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. Now, enjoy the show. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the 90s First Show, where we chat about the 90s content that we just can't stop watching. My name is Mike, and I am with my co-hosts. Yes, I did pluralize that. We're talking Joe. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? And Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm looking forward to good quality podcasting. Back in the swing of things.
We're really excited because what Justin was just hinting at is that he got his PC back. So we're able to have the utmost quality for all of our audio. So we're really, really excited about that. And also that we're able to record all three of us together for a 90s First Show. So I'm super excited. So
it's been a while.
We have a theme episode today. Before we get into that, let me tell you about some housekeeping. We just did a recent episode, just a small news update for Test Your Might, just to catch us up on the current news so that we could be current for our next episode of Test Your Might. So next week, we'll have a meaty debate show. And then this a couple days ago, we posted just a small quick news update. So go check that out. It's on our YouTube as well as podcasting apps all over the world. Speaking of YouTube, please go and subscribe. We're trying to get to that 100 subscriber mark so that we can just say, hey, visit youtube.com/the90sfirst. That's really what we want to do. So please go ahead and subscribe. It would really mean a lot. And hey, it is free. It is free. So finally, a couple things. Let me give you some content as we're going here forward. So 90s First Show, we are going to be talking soon about The Matrix. Yes, we're going to review the original Matrix and then the newest sequel coming out this December, as well as...
what is Matrix?
Oh, but we'll move on. Ignore him. As well as on the Test Your Might side, we do have our Mighties coming up, which is our awards show. So stay tuned for that.
I thought we had a different name for it.
Yeah.
The Test Your Mighties.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
we'll have good friend of the show, Sean Rugg, back to join us on that as well, because hey, he was there for our first one, so we need to get him back for this one. All right. Without further ado, we are going to head into our theme episode today. We are talking about Home Alone. That's right. The original Home Alone came out in 1990. And so we're talking about the first one, and we're going to review the brand new Home Sweet Home Alone that just came out on Disney Plus this past month. So let's get into it, guys. We're going to start with the original Home Alone. You guys, I'm going to preface it this way. The original Home Alone is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. And so, Joe, what are your thoughts on the original Home Alone?
I hate it. It's the worst. It's not even a Christmas film. No, it's a great film. It's I literally just watched both of them this morning to kind of re-up and remind myself of what it was that I liked about Home Alone in the series. The first two, and then there was that one that happened, and now there's a new one. But the first two, especially the first one, fantastic films. I was afraid that it would be all nostalgia, but it's such a good film. Like, they did a great job with it. It's just a good movie. It is definitely dated. There's humor that is crass and crude, and I love it. It is a kid's film, but nowadays, I don't think it would fly, but it is so good.
I might agree with the nowadays it won't fly for some of that, but Justin, overall thoughts on the original Home Alone?
Well, the original Home Alone is a good Christmas movie. I think my favorite is Die Hard, JK. Home Alone is up there. I think that the original had more of a comical element to the hijinks that go on, and I feel like it holds up well. Even now, I enjoy watching Macaulay Culkin go through with the sticky bandits in the second one, but the sticky bandits, that's what I call them. And I feel like the comic book aspect of it, of the different ways that they get hurt or trapped is much better than what I watched today again. But not saying it's a bad film.
We'll get to that. Hold on.
We'll get to that. But I enjoy the first one. I definitely enjoy the story better. I enjoy that it's something nostalgic for me, as well as it's just an overall great film. I think that the comic aspect of it, of the different things that go on, really kind of like make the movie good. It makes it so it's believable but not quite believable, and it doesn't hit the aggressive standpoint that we'll get to, that I feel like is a new one.
Yeah, it's cartoony, right? It's just the second half of the film is one big cartoon.
Gives you hard Looney Tune vibes.
Yeah, and I grew up watching Three Stooges, so that's why Home Alone just hits so well for me. I love the vibe that it has. Obviously, it is a Christmas movie, so it has that sort of festive element to it. But even though like you have that theme surrounding this, like it just works so well. And so let's just dive into it a little bit deeper. So if you guys don't know Home Alone, this is your spoiler alert, I guess, from a 1990 film.
Yeah. So no, just pause.
Just a little bit late.
Go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. Come back and enjoy what we're about to talk about.
So basically the whole premise is that the McAllisters are going on vacation and they forget, or rather Kevin kind of also forget. You got to put the onus a little bit on Kevin McAllister as well. He kind of like hid himself away from the family, but they forget Kevin McAllister home alone. And he is home by himself, no family whatsoever, so to speak. They're gone. And so he basically believes that the wish that he made the night prior, that his whole family would be gone, comes true. And so Joe, kind of what happens after that? Give us a little thoughts on that.
So Kevin McAllister, who's 8 years old, mind you, he's a child. And I can totally relate because my son just turned 9. But he wishes his family would disappear. And that wish comes true the very next day, when he wakes up that morning. And what follows is a moment of panic, and then a realization that he has the whole house to himself for the first time ever, with no rules. And then the typical kid hijinks ensue of like, I'm going to watch all the things I'm not supposed to watch. I'm going to eat all the foods I'm not supposed to eat. I'm going to do all the things I'm not supposed to do. I'm going to have fun in this giant mansion of a house. And the next, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes of the film is him kind of learning to have fun, and then learning that it's not so great to be alone, and then realizing that there's bad guys, and then you get into the real fun, which is fighting them off. And yeah, it's such, they did so good. I don't know how else to put it, but they did phenomenally. And it's believable. Like, it's totally unbelievable, but it's believable in the fact that if a kid were to be left alone in a mansion, like, hijinks would ensue. Yeah. So yeah, so good.
Yeah, one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things is the cast. You've got Macaulay Culkin, which was a great star growing up, and then you've got an adult star, Joe Pesci. This guy is not known for being in kids' films at all. So much so that he had to create, because he always uses language in all of his films. He had to create his own like sound effects to, instead of swear during the movie, to make his own language to when these hijinks go down. And I've never seen him act like that, like in a kids movie, having to deal with family friendly content. And he did a phenomenal job throughout, and I really enjoyed it. Like Joe said, the beginning half is him realizing that he's alone and he's got free roam of the house. He can do whatever he wants. He can go into his brother's room and mess with all of his stuff. He can watch movies that he's not supposed to and get scared by them. And then just eat whatever he wants. And he does that, and then he realizes, oh, it's not so fun being alone. And then he meets the bad guys. And I really think that the cast played a role in making that movie so phenomenal and so nostalgic. It really is a fantastic film.
Yeah, it truly is. So yeah, basically you guys hit on the head. Kevin McAllister, he's all alone. And then he eventually runs into Joe Pesci as Harry and Daniel Stern as Marv. And these guys, they're just, oh man, they're the best. When they are going through the booby trap, so to speak, that Kevin has set up for them, it's just mind-numbingly funny. Like, it is so funny. My favorite scene, like one of my favorite. Well, let's go around the horn on this, and I'll start. What's your favorite joke that Kevin goes on the Sticky Bandits here? And my favorite is Marv's reaction when there's a tarantula right above, like coming onto his face, like that I absolutely freak out in laughter during that moment. So what was your guys', Joe, we'll start with you. What was your favorite booby trap?
So my favorite one is actually before any of the booby traps happen. When I think it's Marv goes up to the door to check and see if anyone's home, because they roll by the night before and they see this massive party going on, which was great. Kevin sets up, Michael Jordan, he sets up all these props in the window, so it looks like the house is full of people and he's having a party. And they think the house is empty, so they go by and they see that and they're like, oh, well, what the heck? And then on the next one, the very next day, they roll by again and they're like, okay, we'll just go see if someone's home. And he does the same thing that he does the pizza guy. He gets the movie cues up the movie, and then he drops the black cats, the firecrackers or whatever, into the pot. So it sounds like there's actual gunfire behind the door. I love that scene because not only did it work once with the pizza guy and it was good, but it worked 2 times. He did the same exact prank 2 times to two different people, and I loved it both times. It didn't get any less funny. So that's my favorite hijink that they get up to. Yeah. Probably in the whole thing. Just because it's unique in the sense it's the only one that gets done more than once.
Yeah. Justin.
I have a hard tie between 2. I can't decide which one is better. Number 1 is phenomenal. It is when I believe it's Marv gets electrocuted, and not only just electrocuted and you see his body shaking, but they go full force with showing a skeleton in one cut of him getting electrocuted, and it's just a hard cut between him getting shocked, and then you just see a skeleton with all of its hair up, and it's hilarious to watch. Wouldn't pass nowadays, but it's funny that they went to the extreme of showing a skeleton being zapped.
It's fun still though.
And then the other one that's a tie with it is going to be when they're trying to go up the stairs, and he's got paint cans and bricks and all kinds of stuff on strings, and he's swinging them down, and you just see them get hit and they just fall and get harmed. It's just a funny little simple pendulum kind of pulley system that he's got going on.
Speaking of stairs, I cringe every time he steps on that nail. It's the absolute worst. But yeah, I mean, and you just got some wonderful moments and heartfelt moments in this too as well. You have Catherine O'Hara as the mom traveling back home in this really, really bad weather, meets John Candy.
Dude, so good. The polka guys.
Yeah, the polka guys. And it's just a really heartfelt comedy and Christmas movie. It's my favorite. The reason why I'm gonna stop the conversation on the original here is because I do want to get to the new one, because I have a lot of opinions of the first one based on this new one. So let's get into the new one here. So Home Sweet Home Alone, if you have a chance, go ahead and get over to Disney Plus and watch it. It is brand new, basically the same premise as the original. It stars Ellie Kemper, Rob Delaney, and then Archie Yates as Max Mercer. The Max Mercer is basically the Kevin McAllister character in the new film. And then Ellie Kemper and Rob Delaney are the Mackenzies, the parents of the Mackenzie family, who in this movie turn out to be the antagonists.
Yeah.
We'll stop right here and give you guys a spoiler warning because we are going to go into it. So if you do want to not know what happens in the film, then stop right here, go watch it, and there. So that is your spoiler warning.
You've been warned.
You've been warned. So anyway, Justin, we'll start with you. Let's just get overall thoughts of this movie. What are your overall thoughts of Home Sweet Home Alone?
I believe that the story was okay. It wasn't terrible. I'm not saying that it was a bad film. I just feel like the execution kind of was flawed. I feel like it had interesting hijinks that took place and an interesting storyline. The antagonists were unique enough, and they had a unique story of why they were trying to get into the house. I just feel like it could have been a lot better, honestly.
Joe.
Fair points, Justin. I like it. My opinion, it was bad. Overall, I was disappointed by where they took the story. I could see what they wanted to do with it, and I agree it was executed unbelievably poorly. The whole thing I thought was in poor taste. They took... am I getting into it, Mike? Are we going full bore?
Let me get my high level thoughts on here first.
Gotcha.
So I'm a huge fan of slapstick comedy and just like this genre of comedy. So the movie overall works for me, and it was fun. But in relation to the original Home Alone, and I'll explain that in a little bit, it's bad. It's not good. And that's solely because of its source material, basically. So now, Joe, pan it, whatever you want to say. Go ahead.
All right. So the premise of this film is based on two parents who want to do the best thing for their family and for their kids. These two parents have inherited a very expensive heirloom that they want to sell so that they can save their home and keep their family happy and together in the place that they've lived their whole life. Now, they took those two people, these two kind, caring parents who want to give the world to their kids, and made them bad guys. They made them bad guys, and then they tortured them, not in funny ways, not in fun, like most of them were not funny to me. They were like over the top, unbelievably like torturous. I mean, shooting someone full of tacks.
I completely agree with you. That's what I meant by aggressive.
Yeah, shooting someone in the head with a pool ball could kill somebody. And granted, in Home Alone, swinging paint cans and bricks at them could have the same effect. Less likely because on a pendulum, it can only get so much momentum. But they seemed... I'm
gonna push back on that point just because there are still in the original so many over the top that would kill them. That's the point of the film, but go ahead.
There are, but in the first one, they're bad guys. These are robbers. These aren't good people. These aren't people who you're like, oh man, I really want them to succeed, because when they succeed, they're getting valuables and goods to sell for
so that makes murder okay.
It makes the
makes it more
the
acceptable.
Stakes more, yeah,
it makes it more acceptable. Okay.
Think about it this way: you have two robbers come into your house. You have two robbers that come into your house who are willing to kidnap you and do awful things to you and hold you ransom, versus you have two parents who break in to try and get back the thing that you stole from them. Spoiler alert, he didn't steal it, but they think he did. and they're just looking for their doll. At no point do they ever threaten him or do anything to him. In fact, when they first get in the house and see him, they say, wait, hold on, can we talk? And he proceeds to then just destroy them with all sorts of stuff. So I didn't like it because the premise is two parents who want to do the best for their family and for their kids being tortured by this bully of a child who's an absolute little cretin, who gets way too much leeway and everything he wants. I didn't like it. Like in the first film, you have Macaulay Culkin, Kevin McAllister, who's bullied by everyone, and he's the runt and he's picked on. In this one, we don't see any of that. We don't see the reason why he is the way he is. All we see is a jerk kid who has basically been given everything, lives in a big fancy home, has all the cool gadgets and toys and everything, and just doesn't want to spend time with his family. And then he beats up another family, tortures them for a night, and then they're all hunky-dory at the end for some reason. I don't know. I did not like it. I don't recommend watching it. I recommend watching the original one and pretending that Home Alone 3 and this one don't exist.
You know, when the least lethal or the least aggressive thing that they did was like water the driveway so you could slip and fall, and all the other hijinks that he pulled off could have killed somebody, from icicles hanging that was extremely dangerous.
That kills like 15 people a year.
Like then they break in. Okay, spoiler: they break into the wrong house. Okay, they jump a fence and they're in a swimming pool that's frozen over, and the kid inside the house is just like, there's people drowning in the pool, and they make it into a joke about a story that he's being told by a grandfather or something. And I'm sitting there just like, these are two parents trying to save a doll that someone stole from them. And then the whole like aspect of them talking to the kid and saying this is a huge misunderstanding was so cringeworthy. Like, all of this happened for no reason, and they had to put that in the movie. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
It was a fun ride. I agree with you, Mike. The hijinks and the slapstick comedy were great. I just think it was over the top aggressive, and I think that for a kids movie, you know, firing a pool ball into someone's face and then threatening to do it again is a lot for a child to watch.
Yeah, I mean,
he catches.
I don't know. I gotta push back on you because like that's what the original film is too. Like it is marketed as a kids Christmas movie, and that's what it was. It doesn't matter though. You're still doing those things to people, and with that.
The pushback has got to be though, you're doing it to bad guys or you're doing it to good guys. That's like beating up a superhero and calling it a good thing versus beating up the bad guy.
So you mean to tell me that even a good person who is breaking into somebody else's house is not bad?
I personally think that the level of hijinks was much higher in Home Sweet Home. I believe that the thought process behind each weapon and each trap was more aggressive than Macaulay Culkin's Home Alone.
Okay,
there's very dangerous stuff in Home Alone,
and I think there's equally amount of dangerous stuff in my opinion. But regardless,
I think it's attacked.
I still agree with you that like the problem. So since we're talking about the hijinks, the problem that I had with the hijinks is that they were funny, but they were just done better in Home Alone. Like you have the slippery driveway in Home Alone. Yep. You have the hot sauce basically, except it's fire on his head in the original, and then he dunks his head in snow versus the hot sauce in this one, the ghost pepper or whatever. It's basically just recycled slapstick. And for me, even though it works in like Three Stooges or whatnot, because that's the type of slapstick they do every single episode, it doesn't work as well recycled here in this new one. He had paint cans. I don't think it was paint cans, but he had the pendulum swing as well. It was flour. It was flour and sugar bags.
Flour
that's what it was.
And sugar. Yeah, it was making a cookie.
So he had those things, and those were done better in Home Alone, the original, because of the villains.
Because they were bad people.
No.
Because they were villains. They were people who you wanted bad
Yes,
things happened to because they were doing bad things.
But my pushback is even if a good person is breaking into somebody else's house, they are a villain. Like, and
They
that's
had a key.
huh?
They had a key.
And that's still breaking and entering because it's not their house.
But they broke in and tried to talk to him. They didn't break
And
in
the
and
cop
try and
thought it
steal
was their house.
everything. They're like, hey,
Joe,
We're
you
gonna work this out.
literally watched the original today. They broke in and tried to talk to Kevin. Like,
they did.
yeah. So yeah,
But they were bad guys.
Oh my goodness!
Even the cops
a burglar
were on
is a burglar, even if they are seemingly good people.
They had a good conversation with the police officer out on the street, which was a throwback to an original character, which was great.
That was fantastic.
The scripting was terrible, but other than that, they
I just want you to understand that anybody breaking into a home is a villain, even if they are perceivably good people. Anyway,
What if it's your house?
with that being
That's
said,
only true at surface level.
Yeah, if it's your house and you locked your keys inside and you have to break in to get in, then you're not a bad guy.
Oh my goodness, I'm done with this conversation. It still works. It still does not work though. Overall,
It does not
yes,
work.
I agree with you that even Marvin Harry are just better. They are just better in their acting with the hijinks and with all that being said. They're just better, more believable villains. So.
Yeah, because they're villains.
Stop.
Well, they didn't really, see,
Anybody breaking into a house is a villain.
I think that the original cast from the Macaulay Culkin Home Alone had better character as villains. In this one, they didn't really stand apart from the whole motif of these two people trying to get something from a house that's not theirs.
In the original, they sell you on these are bad guys from the get-go. The very first scene is Joe Pesci posing as a police officer, trying to see which houses are going to be capable of being robbed, and then introducing him and Marv as bad guys. And in this one, they introduce the antagonist, the bad guys, as a loving family who only wants the best, a husband who got laid off, and a husband and wife trying to make it. And it's like, well, how am I supposed to feel like it's a good thing for them to be all these bad things that happen to these good people when you've introduced them as good people who you only want the best for, and you've introduced the kid as the one who deserves to have bad things happen to him.
I'm pushing back that good people would have gone to the cops and said, this kid stole my thing. Sure. And that's what makes them villains in this. But
they're not villains at the end.
Huh?
They're not villains at the end. They're all friendly with the family.
I know, and that's my third point. Let me get to my second point, and then we'll get to that point because the ending is awful.
The whole movie is.
No, the whole movie isn't awful. There's still redeeming qualities. So I think my biggest issue actually with the film, despite the ending being awful, is Max. Like, so the cool thing about Kevin McAllister, and let me know if you guys disagree or not, or agree, is that despite him starting off as like, oh, I'm alone, I could do whatever I want, that type of thing, he has this is a Christmas movie, guys. He has such an awesome character development within the span of like 30 minutes where he basically he starts off as a true 8-year-old. He's doing whatever he wants. He's eating whatever he wants. And then he becomes an adult. He's shopping for toothpaste. He's shopping for toilet paper. Like that character development for an 8-year-old who realizes that, yes, it sucks being alone, but I got to make this work. That's what makes this even more and more believable, is that once these villains come into play, he's like, I got to protect my house because this is my house and I'm an adult. And that's what's amazing about this. And that's what makes it, as you said, Jelly, even though it is unbelievable, all these booby traps, more believable because that is Kevin McAllister's domain. Whereas Max, you have him just like, I'm just gonna set up these booby traps but like there's no like character growth or anything like that in that character.
It's lacking all the story that the original had.
Under the whole main plot, he thinks that they are there to get him, not a doll, which they're actually there to get, which is the misunderstanding element. And he thinks that he's protecting his own life, and that's why he has to step up.
Yeah, that's why the hijinks are so severe, is because these people are here to steal the ugly kid and try and sell him to an old lady for $200,000.
I still thought that was funny.
Yes,
that's a funny misunderstanding. You have to admit that's a little funny.
I think the German grandmother was the best.
There are very few and far between redeeming moments in the film. Not enough to actually redeem the film, but enough to be able to sit through and laugh at. The VR thing I thought was very funny. Just very new age.
It's new age hijinks. They were making it modern.
Exactly. And like super unrealistic if you know anything about VR, but if you don't, like you could pretend like that could really happen. And
when he looked down and saw Santa's suit, I was like,
yeah, exactly right. But the original one was so well done. Was done on story, on characters, and then allowed the hijinks to be a part of the film. And this one forgets all of that, throws the book away, and just goes, we're just gonna think of all these hijinks that we think are funny, and then we'll like just shove some story things into it and try and make it work.
Agreed.
Yeah,
and I completely agree with that. Like that's the problem with the new one, is that like with Max, like he ultimately becomes not the main character, whereas in the original, Kevin McAllister is the main character and he's the person that we're rooting for. Whereas like Max, you're not, like, you want to root for him, but like there's no point in rooting for him. And then at the end of the day, I 100% agree with you, Justin, that just like that whole conversation was just like incredibly cringy and stuff like that. Where they're like, oh, you're all alone. Like, oh,
as an adult viewer, you're watching this and you're seeing Max and you want to root for him. But at the same time, you see the two criminals and they're misunderstood and you're seeing their side of the story. So you're knowing that they're under this whole misunderstanding and we're just watching hijinks happen for no reason the entire film.
Yeah, well, and the way they introduce Max is as this bratty little twerp riding with his mom who wants McDonald's, and the mom's like, no. And he's like, well, I want it and I get what I want because that's how it works. And he's being an absolute little piece of cretin. And we immediately start off disliking Max because he's not a likable character. They didn't introduce him as someone that you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to bat for this kid because, the world has beaten him down. Unlike Kevin McAllister, who his mom ignores him, his dad ignores him, his brothers and sisters are absolutely awful to him. His brother says that he wouldn't let him sleep in the same room if he was attached to his butt. Now, he said a different word. He said, if you were part of me, attached to me, I still wouldn't let you stay here. Wouldn't help him pack his bags, wouldn't help him do anything, said he was useless, said he was, said he was incapable, something in French, but said he was incapable of basically taking care of himself. And so in the first one, we're showed a story of a kid who was bullied and forgotten, and he learns to take care of himself. He learns how to do everything for himself through hijinks and through being forgotten and through all of these things, where it's really a story of growth. And in the new one, you have a story of, it's just modern
confusion and miscommunication.
Yeah, they took a very modern take. The way the world has turned now and how it is now is that, instant gratification and everything, everybody gets what they want and kids are just absolutely catered to.
Yeah.
It's, in my opinion, not a good film. If you've made it this far, you're watching, you're listening, don't watch it if you haven't seen it yet. If you have seen it, let me know if you disagree with me. Maybe I'm just old, crotchety, and no fun anymore. Maybe I'm a Scrooge.
And on the other end of that argument, I've watched it twice, and it's an okay film if you kind of watch it in the background. If you focus in, you're going to notice all the flaws, and you're gonna really tend to relate it to the original, and it's not going to be as good. I'm letting you know it is not as good as the original. Even coming from someone who is a huge Ellie fan from The Office, she's the lead antagonist.
Yeah, Erin from The Office.
In this film, Erin from The Office. And, her humor is there. If you like her as an actress, she's good, but that still didn't make it a great film. The story elements were lacking, and I feel like it does not hold up to the original. And I am a strong believer of the first one and Lost in New York being the only two that matter. And
amen.
Both of those are phenomenal films, and I feel like this one just did not hit where it should have. It missed a lot of points.
It missed a lot. To be fair, I would say that the bad guys in this had the best character development, growth, story. It was basically their film. It wasn't about Max at all. It was about I don't remember their names, Ellie and Bradley or something.
No, if you look it up on Google and just type in cast, it shows Aaron first, and then it shows the guy who played the big brother in the original second, and then it goes to Max. Because the antagonists that are stealing back the doll are the lead characters. They play more of a role in character development than Max did.
Yeah,
and I feel like
it's absolutely their movie. Max was a side part of this film. He was only there to wreak havoc, and then it was a film really about them overcoming adversity, getting the doll back, and in the end, and then being able to save their family. Whereas in the first one, it's the exact opposite. It's a story about Kevin overcoming adversity, overcoming his inability to do anything, growing up and learning how to take care of himself. They missed the mark in the sense that the original one was fun, and then this one forgot the fun and just had a hodgepodge story.
Did you guys cringe when he picked up that Lego set and tossed it on the floor with anger?
Dude, what
I cringed
$1,000 Lego set, just smashing it onto the ground.
Yeah, no.
So I don't know if you guys touched on it, but I wanted to touch on my thoughts about the ending.
Go ahead.
The fact that it was their nephew that took the doll really irked me.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Okay, so I got so annoyed by that, because you mean to tell me that they couldn't write a better option? They had an open house where there are people just randomly all over their house, and you mean to tell me that the nephew took it?
Right upstairs?
Yeah, and the nephew wasn't even there when they were having the open house. Yep. And when it went missing. So to me, it was, it was so bad. What it should have been was the couple that they were talking to in the kitchen. They should have been the ones that stole the doll.
Yeah, but then the kid, there has to be a kid protagonist, and that's the problem. But you could still have that, and then they find that these are the true villains, not just the nephew has this willy-nilly thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think that they messed up there, because the bad guys, the brother arrives that night, late at night. They get kicked out of their own room, and then the next day, getting calls from different countries. That's weird. Yo, you guys ever get
Kevin's
a call
parents
from
are calling you?
Ooh, I'm getting a call from Paris. I think the McAllisters are calling me. It's weird. But no, the fact that the toy went missing, the doll went missing after the doll went missing after one night, right? Somehow they go back and they're like, oh, hey, this doll's now worth money because I looked it up online, and it's
Randomly.
like, why wouldn't you just ask the people staying in your room where hey, did you see the doll? Because they don't do that at all. At no point
Nope.
do they go to their own family and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, is your kid a little klepto? Like,
Well, it's because their entire family are good guys all the way through the film.
yeah, and we know that he's a little klepto from early on because they show
Yeah.
him stealing something. So we know what happened, which I think makes it even worse because we know what happened. And then we get to watch the family get tortured knowing that the family is a good family and they're just trying to do the best, and that the bad people is actually their nephew, and they get tortured because they're not willing to talk to their family or something.
Yeah. I just think they had a missed opportunity there.
Like, why did the nephew toss the doll at the end anyway?
Because he's a
Like-
twerp.
And I mean, because
He's the bad guy in the film.
my 2-year-old throws things when I tell him just to hand it to me, so like that's believable. But
Kids are kids. They throw
but
stuff.
yeah, so that's Home Sweet Home Alone. I don't think we're super high on it. I thought it was fun. Jelly thought it was bad. I still don't think it's good, but fun is fun to me. So Justin, and you thought you're more on my end, but still.
I'm in the middle, but more on your end. Yes.
Okay.
It was bad.
Well, all right. Well, that's our Home Alone in review. So thank you guys so much for stopping by and hanging out with us. As always, if you would like to follow us, we are at the 90s First on all social media, as well as we want to get to 100 subscribers on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and we will see you next time. My name is
everyone.
Mike. For Joe, Justin, we'll see you later. Bye. Bye.
Perfect.
Nice.